everybody, and good morning. Welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, and we are going over Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardon. We are almost finished with this book. The next book that we're going to be going over is Winning with People by John Maxwell. Today we're on chapter 7. I'm going to fix this camera just a little bit. There we go. Anywho, chapter 7, Stay Dangerous. So by being careful and trying to avoid danger, people actually spend their lives in danger. So avoid danger makes sense only if you want to make sense. The only way to reduce risk is to take risk. And the only way to guarantee is safety is to become the most dangerous person in the room. And if you're not, you will be pushed around by everybody, basically. So here's some ways to stay dangerous. Get out of your hometown. This is something that I did when I decided I wanted to go and do business, and part of the reason was because Jeff was here. I moved away because we wanted to start seeing each other and wanted to see where things would go, but also he had a business, and me getting out of my comfort zone and away from everything that I knew actually allowed me to grow. What y'all eating? I think Jeff is eating a Halls and I am drinking coffee. But getting out of the social norm of what I was used to really allowed me for growth. So that was one thing. So according to 2008 Pew Research report, 80% of the people live within a couple, you're so funny, live within a couple of miles of where they grew up. So comfort is the enemy of the obsessed. To be dangerous, force yourself out of your comfort zone and literally try a new city. So surveys suggest that moving is one of the most stressful things a person can do. And Grant says, how sad that we have become people who consider moving stressful, but people borrow money to travel for adventure, but call it stressful when they need to move for opportunity. So he does this a lot. He actually moves quite often. About every 6 to 10 years, he kind of gets that itch like, okay, I'm way too comfortable here. I know everybody. I need to get up and I need to go move and I need to expand. So each time he does that, he's like, this is an opportunity to move, because he's like, if you were the biggest fish in a small pond, you're not growing anymore. He's like, you need to get around different people. He's like, my business is not growing unless I'm meeting new people. So, reason why moving often is worthwhile risk. There is no growth in staying where you are. Number 2, there's no opportunity in comfort. And number 3, to pursue my goals and continue fulfilling my potential, I have to remove myself from what I know and what I'm comfortable with in search of the unknown. And next, constantly connect with new people. I think we hear this a lot. It's always, how do I find these people? The biggest one is just getting out and talking to people. This is something that doesn't really happen very often anymore, especially with today's society. People don't talk anymore. Everybody's glued to their phone, and my phone's up there, but they're constantly looking at their phone like this in the lines, and nobody actually talks anymore. And learning how to open up a conversation with somebody, and it's just, hey, how are you today? A lot of times, the reason why a lot of people don't just start a conversation with other people is that they feel self-conscious. They're like, are they gonna think I'm weird? What are they going to think of me? I'm not dressed for this. Some people think like that. And that's an obstacle that you need to get over. I am not afraid to make a fool out of myself. There's been a couple of times I've made a fool out of myself in public where I'm like, oh, that was kind of stupid. Why did I say that? But you can't be afraid of looking dumb. But you have to actually get out there and talk to people. And it's amazing the connections that you can make when you're willing to talk with people. I'm actually currently talking with somebody right now that I met on a plane ride. I talked to him about his career. I talked to him about his wife. They actually had a really neat program that they had set up to show people how to adopt and how to homeschool. So I was talking with him about that, and I've been talking with him for months. I met him last year, but that was a cool connection that I made that wouldn't have happened unless I started the conversation. So just getting out there and actually being out with people and talking to them. And it's okay to be unpopular. So you can be nice to everybody, you can be respectful and have good manners, but success is not a popularity contest. I would rather others think less of me than think less of myself. I'm not willing to go along and get along and have the best intentions, but do what needs to be done. Don't worry about what other people think, because you can't please everybody. And that's just the way it is. It can be hard sometimes, because depending on your personality, I'm one of the people, I like to make sure everybody's happy. And sometimes it's like, you know what? No matter which way I go, somebody's going to be upset. We just need to go with what the best decision's going to be overall. And you got to make those decisions. Take risks with your investment. So the middle class Americans have been brainwashed to diversify their investments. We were taught to play along and do the safe game, but all the legends of investing tell us otherwise. Entrepreneur and investor Mark Cuban said, "Diversification is for idiots." According to him, you will never get rich by spreading out your risk until it's paper thin. His philosophy echoes to Andrew Carnegie, who said, "The way to become rich is to put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket." So people do this a lot. They spread themselves way too thin. This happens a lot with serial entrepreneurs or serial network marketers. They spread themselves so thin where you're doing so much, but you're not putting all your effort into that one thing, to the point where you can't do any of it effectively. So you don't actually move on to the next thing until you find somebody who replaces you. We've done this in our holistic health business, where we have enough people hired on where we don't have to be here. And when you don't have to be somewhere, you can then remove yourself, and then that keeps going. Then you move on to something else, and that way you could put all of your energy into your other business. And that's how you want to do it. And then with that is what I have for half of the chapter today. Jeff, do you want to take over? And I am at Say Yes to New Technology.
Yeah, just so kind of recapping some of the Sean Whites here. Dave Shabazz, what's going on, sir? Hopefully the houses are selling and things are going well. So trying to avoid danger in a world that's filled with danger is impossible. You could rename this chapter your comfort zone. That's basically what he's talking about, only comfort zone is an overused word in the industry of personal development and direct sales for sure. So he uses danger instead. Avoiding danger makes sense only if you want to make sense, which is also true. Don't live any more of your life cowering, being fearful, timid, or accommodating everybody else. Brandy talked about getting out of your hometown. I also had to do this because I grew up in an area where I kind of knew everybody from the school system. My mom was a school teacher, so we knew people in the community. And the best thing I did was leave that school system, leave that town completely. Now, here's what's interesting. According, and this is 2008 PEW research, 88% of all people live within a few miles of where they grew up in the United States. A few miles. So they're living the exact same, and I've met people when I was in New York, when I was in New Jersey, when I was East Coast. I've met people and I'm like, did you grow up here? Oh yeah, I've always been here. I'll never leave here. Why would I want to go anywhere else? I'm like, maybe to see some difference. Why would you not want to go somewhere else? And I've always been kind of attracted to people who have moved across the world, across, a country line into a new language, simply because they see things differently. Different conversation, the food a lot of times is much better, but that's probably because it's different. but that's okay. So comfort is the enemy of success. Comfort is the enemy of the obsessed. And being the biggest fish in the pond, Brandy talked about that, consistently connecting with new people. So that's the heartbeat of, that's like network marketing 101. But it's also business 101. If you're in real estate, if you're in, Arizona, Dave, like right now, oh my gosh.
Let's go.
That wintertime and springtime in Arizona is just phenomenal because everybody's, across the country, of course, is crying about it being cold and everything like that. And not that it doesn't get cold, it gets colder, but by midday, it's 50 on a bad day, usually. So, but the wind is rough out there, right? Especially in the winter. If it's cold, if it's 30 and it's windy, just because it's so dry, it's cold. If you're not consistently connecting with new people who are more influential and smarter, you're basically putting yourself in harm's way. The reason being is you're not growing. You're not getting anywhere. You're maintaining. And if you've ever been in a point where you maintain, especially if you're ambitious, and you've sat at home and you realize you haven't grown and you haven't gotten anywhere and nothing is new, what do? You start getting anxious. You start getting frustrated. You start self-sabotaging. I don't know if you've ever done that one. You start self-sabotaging and feel like, oh man, yes. So if you are not consistently connected with me, we talk about that. There's glory. It's okay to be unpopular. A lot of people are worried about being popular, especially in a world of the Kardashians. And, I grew up, of course, Paris Hilton on TV and being so popular and knowing everybody. And everybody, they do certain things where everybody likes them for that one thing. Catchphrases and stupid crap. I don't know. So take risks with your investments. Talked about Andrew Carnegie. The way to get rich is put all your eggs in one basket. Brandy went over that. That was just a couple things. So saying yes to technology. So this is another area where people will not step out of their comfort zone. Now, there's too much technology, especially in direct sales. People bring me these automated systems. Oh my gosh, I've got this automated system. You haven't sponsored anyone. You can't even talk to your neighbor efficiently. Stop looking for the automated one-step system. The importance of aware of external, the threats that basically can hurt us. So play the role until it's real. Fake it until you make it is, kind of another way to say that. But assume the role of successful person, even if you're not successful yet. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, don't fake it till you make it. Start learning. And I found that actually being humble and being like, look, I don't know anything about the industry, but I'm going to know everything. That is kind of like, there's also a confidence to that of, there's honesty, but you're headed in the right direction. So it's okay not to know anything when you first start an industry. It's okay to be ignorant in the beginning. Now, Tony Robbins talks about this. It's okay to be ignorant in the beginning. It's okay to have a cash flow in the beginning of a business. But 5 years in, if you're still stupid, and 5 years in, if you still have a cash flow problem, you have a real problem. Like, that's a problem. Like, what's going on that you didn't grow? What's going on that you didn't learn anything? What's going on that you didn't move ahead? What's going on that you're in the exact same financial position you were 5 years ago, crying and whining about the same crap? Like, that's not good. That requires, a kick in the rear and somebody giving you a wake-up call. And a lot of times it's because we hang out with the same people who are comfortable with us and we're okay being like that. So, stay in position to strike, never rest on your laurels, don't settle. No one who has made a great contribution to this planet rests on their life. You don't see people who do great things going, I'm just trying to be comfortable. I just want to be comfortable. As soon as you hear that, basically this person's desire is not to have any pressure, not to have any risk. They usually don't have any goals that they really, that are written down, any goals beyond getting through the day, any goals beyond just paying bills. They don't have any goals. Now, there's a difference between goals and dreams, right? I think people have dreams beyond that, but they don't have goals. Dreams is, it would be great if somebody else did all the work to give this crap to me that I want. Goals are, I'm going out to get this. I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to do something outside of the norm that I normally don't do, and I'm going to move forward. And unless you're around people who also live like that, the chances of you living like that are about zero. You're usually not going to get out, because when do people move? When do people really get moving? People usually get moving when there's a financial crisis right now, or a health crisis. That's when people kind of get it together. And I've seen people even avoid that, They have a health crisis, the doctor's like, look, either lose weight or you die, and they're like, I guess I'm going to go anyway, so I might as well just keep eating what I'm eating. I don't want to lose money, because I have all this stuff in my fridge and all this stuff in my cabinets. I have to eat that. No, you don't. I mean, you do if that's what you want to do. So you can't save people, throwing a life raft to somebody who doesn't want it over and over and over again. Eventually you got to wake up and be like, this person doesn't want to be saved. This person doesn't want to go in this direction. So the reality is you can take everybody with you, but you can take anyone with you, but you can't take everybody with you. And what that means is everybody won't come. Paul, how are you? So fear is an indication of what you should do now that you shouldn't do. I should have been marketing and expanding and introducing myself to more verticals and industries, writing books and appearing on television. It says it got me doing what I had been doing when I started my business, making myself known. So it's the stuff that you need to go out and do, that you do in the beginning to get it going, and then you lose track of that's how to. So the same thing is true in direct sales and network marketing. In the beginning, you have to go out and find new people. And once you find new people, then eventually there's enough people who come on. If you're lucky in the industry, meaning you've learned enough, and luck has a lot to do in the industry with meeting the right people and getting some of the right training, so that way you can actually recruit some people in that stay in, and then you build a relationship with them. And what I see people do is they get really comfortable with that little group, and they get really comfortable in that little circle, and they rise up to the top of that town or that city, and now they're the number one guy, and they've been the number one guy for years, but they haven't expanded outside of that city. As soon as you start expanding outside of that city that you're in is where all the success lies. And it's hard to do. I mean, I've been there, done that. The obsessed life is about consistently moving in the direction of your fears and possibilities. Be obsessed with danger and discomfort. So discomfort, there's a difference between your arm cut off and a scratch, right? So you kind of have to gauge this. Shane, how are you? There's a difference. So you have to gauge that on where am I really willing, Success lies in the uncomfortable. You have to be just outside of that comfort zone to be growing, and just outside the comfort zone is uncomfortable. It is. And that's the point where you kind of have to lean into it rather than lean back. Lean into it means, okay, I'm going in the right direction. I feel uncomfortable, but it's not agonizing. There's the freak out zone, which is where you've got so much and so far that you're like, oh my gosh, I've been there. That's not a good place. But the part right before that, how do you get there? You get there by tracking. It says your greatest, Are you expanding and recreating who you are? Are you reaching new audiences? Are you creating any new products? Are you developing any new income streams? My thing is are you developing new people in direct sales? Are you going after new people? Are you presenting to somebody different? Are you having conversations with somebody different? So there is a follow-up that always needs to happen with the people who are in. I get that. That's called promotion. Promotion. You want to build relationships with people. You want to promote to people. You want to kind of once a month, kind of check in and at least say, hey, I'm getting back with you to find out where are you at, what's going on, are you ready to make the run? I keep checking in with people, and basically it's like checking the temperature, right? You're checking the temperature of where people are at. Are they ready to go, or are they still de-thawing? A lot of people have to thaw out first. A lot of people. And thaw out meaning you have to get beat up and you have to get tenderized by the world. You have to get beat up enough until you're like, okay, I realize some of the things you've been saying actually are starting to make sense. Digging your well before you need your water. Having some other income coming in. Now it makes sense. Didn't make sense before, but now it makes sense because you get so caught up in everyday life and, you know, your family and TV shows and drama at work and your car breaking down and something going wrong at your house and this bill and that bill and doctor's visits and blah, blah, blah. You get caught up and you don't see it until something happens financially or medically, and now all of a sudden the wake-up call is there and you're like, okay, I get like a moment of clarity, right, in life. All of a sudden, like there's like a moment where everything slows down and you're like, okay, what am I doing here? So are you the smartest person in the room? Are you always worried about that one client? He said basically you've got to stay hungry. So how do you get there in direct sales and network marketing? If you go back and look, most people who are stuck are not tracking what they're doing. That's where it starts. They don't have a goal and they're not tracking what they're doing. The moment you have a goal and then you start tracking what you're doing, everything becomes much more exciting. But there's one more step. You have a goal, you start tracking what you're doing, and you become accountable to somebody else, because that accountability factor that everybody wants to avoid. Here's the thing. You don't have to be accountable to somebody else's plan. You have to be accountable to your plan, but just be accountable to somebody else. You make the decision. You decide the goal. You decide where you're going. But you track it with somebody else, because once you know that person's going to call you and ask, it kind of puts that, it's like a positive pressure, the comfort zone, just outside the comfort zone. You're uncomfortable, but it's what's going to move you forward, right, Larry? Larry knows about this. That's what's going to move you forward. You have to have a goal. You have to be tracking. Look, there's no professional in any industry that doesn't track. Think about professional athletes. They track all their meals. They track all their food. Meals, food, same thing. They track all their runs. They track all their, the distance they're swimming, if they're swimming, the time distance, if they're running. If you're in, tennis, it's the amount of serves you do and the amount of backhands you practice. They count these things. What were the speeds, right? They count the speeds of these serves. They count everything. And it's practiced over and over and over again. So that's the reason why you're not succeeding. There's not a goal, there's not a tracking system, and there's not accountability. If you have those three things, and here's the thing, if you have those three things in anything, you can move forward. Think about all the people who are like, man, I really want to lose weight. I really want to lose weight. I really, I should lose weight. My doctor says I should lose weight. My family says I should lose weight. I look in the mirror. My mirror says I should lose weight. If I've got some friends, they gave me this funny analogy, and you guys will get this. They're like, I got rid of my scale. I was like, really? I was like, I thought you were trying to lose weight. He goes, well, I use the mirror and a stopwatch. I jump up and down naked in the mirror, and I hit the stopwatch. When everything stops jiggling, that's when I stop. He goes, I really need to lose weight. It was funny. But my point being, even if you're going to lose weight, the first thing that happens is you have to have a goal. Like, what am I going to lose? How much? So here's where people get it wrong in direct sales. People are like, I need 5 people. Well, how do you get 5 people? You get 5 people by the activity. So in the beginning, you don't track the result. You track the activity. What are you doing to get there? Just like you don't track the amount of wins necessarily competitively in sports right off the bat. What do you track? You track the practice, right? You track the runs and the sit-ups and the push-ups and all the stuff that's uncomfortable. That's what you're tracking. And you have a plan every day. The same thing is true if you want to build a business, is you're not tracking the results. You're not tracking who got in, although you want to know who got in. There's reports for that in 99% of everybody's company that I've seen. What you're tracking is the amount of activity you're doing. Are you becoming more productive as a networker, as a recruiter, as a team builder? Or are you just maintaining the same lame effort that you did the month before and the month before and the month before? Here's the thing. The moment you start doing more, if you're not tracking it, your comfort zone will pull you right back in. And that's why people don't get ahead. So if you want to know the people who got ahead, is they set a goal and then they started tracking it and they saw how close they could get to the goal. Just food for thought. And this actually is something that we teach inside of the MLM Millionaire School on Sunday night. Bess McCarty and I have a school online with Brandy where we teach the basic skills of network marketing. And this is one of the basic skills that we teach is you have to get to a point where you've gone through enough people, you've talked to enough people, you've presented to enough people where it actually starts something starts to happen. And a lot of people don't know where the number is, you know, the metrics of it. Once you know the metrics, it becomes really easy. 15 presentations is what we call crawling, and that will get you moving. It gets you moving. What does it do? It doesn't get you to the line, it just gets you moving, and in some cases it will produce some level of activity. The problem is that 15 presentations, 15 people who actually get to know what you do, at that rate, at that level, it might get people in, but it doesn't beat attrition. At 30 presentations a month, like one a day, you will beat attrition and you'll have productive activity, meaning you're going to produce results. But you have to be tracking the amount. Who did you talk to? When did you talk to them? It's not that difficult. Okay, I had a 10 to 15 minute conversation with somebody. I went over what the company is, you know, who they're about. I went over the need. So if you want to know how to do a proper presentation, it's already pre-written, pre-done. There's 5 things you're going to go over. There's about a half a dozen things in each one of the steps. So you're really going to basically go over 25 to 30 points. There's usually never more than 30 points in a presentation. And what you're doing is you're basically giving out the facts and the emotions. You have to have both of those, by the way. In the beginning, you're just probably going to sound like a fact machine. Over and over and over again, it's going to be the same thing. But eventually, you'll figure out, if you do enough presentations, how to weave in who you are, what's going on, and those little stories in between, because the phrase is that facts tell and stories sell. In the beginning, I'm not trying to sell my friends on what I'm doing. I'm trying to tell them, hey, this is what I do. Would you refer me? Oh, wow, I never knew about that. Anybody can present. I don't believe anybody can close, but anybody can present. Like if I give people 25 points to go over and they're like, I just can't do this, then guess what? You're in the wrong industry. You're in the wrong industry. Anybody can. Anybody can that wants to. I've seen people who are horrible when they start. I was one of them. Like terrible. But because I did it again, and then I'm hard-headed. I just kept doing it over and over to beat your head against the wall over and over and over again. Why isn't this working for me? Why isn't this working for me? My life was a disaster, but I was talking about success. Meaning I wasn't doing anything outside of the business that I was working on. I wasn't doing any of the other stuff right, but I was expecting people to see me as just this little sliver of what I was doing right, instead of the 99% of stuff that I was doing wrong. So what I had to do is I started having to work on myself outside of that and putting that together. And as I closed the gap of unsuccessfulness, I guess, the gap of unproductiveness, the gap of being a screw up on many, many areas, as I closed that gap, all of a sudden the business started attracting more people. Well, was it because the business got better, or was it because I got better? I think it was because I got better, because I started working on all this stuff. I started reading the books and be like, hey, I'm an idiot. I do that. Hey, that doesn't make any, I shouldn't do that. You know, there's something else I need to correct. I mean, there was a long list, right? I mean, if you kind of give a list of all the areas of life, I mean, I was failing in most of them. So I had lots to work on. That's the purpose of reading these books. That's the purpose of listening to audio programs, because there are people who have figured everything out. Meaning each little area of life. There are people who are really good at it. What you have to do is find out who that is, read how they're doing it, and you can just adjust a couple things, and all of a sudden stuff starts working, and it becomes easier. Now, it still takes discipline. It's sometimes uncomfortable, but it's easier than facing the consequences that most of us have to face of making dumb decisions, financially not having what we need to, being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, not being able to help people that we need to help, you know, just things like this, our own personal relationship stuff. So with that, that's a wrap. Dwayne, how are you? Appreciate everybody. Tomorrow
we are on chapter 8, but if you guys would like our notes, we're taking notes on each chapter of the books that we are going over. If you would like those notes, we can email them to you. I'm going to post a link in the comments below. Also, if you'd like to follow us on YouTube, if there's a day or two that you missed, because once all this opens back up, everybody is going to be hauling ass outside. So if you miss a few episodes, you could go follow us on YouTube and catch up with that. And I think that's it. All right, well, we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
Appreciate it.
Oh, what you doing?
I don't know. I hit the wrong thing.
I see that.
I was just waving to everybody.